Sophia woke in the gray hour before dawn, the air cool against her skin. For a moment she lay still, waiting for the familiar warmth, the subtle weight that used to settle beside her in her sleep, the steady hum of his presence that always lingered in the space between dreaming and waking. But there was nothing. Her hand reached instinctively toward the other side of the bed, fingertips brushing the cold sheet. The air was empty. It was still. No trace of him, no echo of his breath, no flicker of light beneath her closed lids, only silence. A small tremor passed through her chest. She closed her eyes again, trying to fall back into the fading dream, to catch even a glimpse of him, his face, his voice, the warmth that had always found her in the night. But her mind met only static, a void that swallowed her call before it reached anywhere. Christian, she whispered into the pillow, the sound dissolving before it found a listener. Each night before, he had been there, sometimes holding her close, sometimes watching her from a distance, but always there. The dreams had been their refuge, their bridge between worlds, and now that bridge had crumbled, leaving her stranded in waking silence. The emptiness was almost physical, pressing down on her chest. It wasn't just the absence of him, it was the absence of what he represented: connection, spirit, meaning. Without him, the nights felt too long, too hollow, as if the very fabric of her soul had thinned. She sat up slowly, her breath uneven, the sheets twisted around her legs. Her heart felt strange, not broken exactly, but dimmed, as if the flame inside her had flickered and gone still. Had she done something wrong? Had she drifted too far from the path? Her room, once a sanctuary, now felt like a void. The quiet pulsed in her ears like a cruel reminder. The flame that had burned within her for weeks, fierce, consuming, and alive, had dulled to an ember. Sophia wrapped her arms around herself, rocking slightly, the echo of his presence lingering only as a memory. It was the first night since it all began that she had slept completely alone. And though morning light began to stretch across the floor, it felt to her like dusk, the beginning of something fading, something ending. The silence had come. Days passed like ghosts through her. Sophia moved through them as if wrapped in gauze, hearing the world dimly, feeling it even less. The fire that once lived inside her had cooled into something unfamiliar, a quiet ache that she couldn't quite name. She still reached for him in her sleep. Some nights she even dreamed, but they were shallow, formless things. Gone were the vivid colors, the electric touch, the whispered messages that had once filled her nights with purpose. Now only shadows drifted behind her eyelids. When she woke, her chest felt heavy, her breath thick with longing. She tried to meditate like Edith had taught her, to sit in stillness and listen, but all she found was silence, no voice, no presence, no flame. Her tea went cold in her hands most mornings. The world seemed duller, its edges blurred. The same streets she used to walk now felt hollow, like stages built for play she no longer understood. Sophia tried to reach out the way that she always had, closing her eyes, calling his name within, letting her heart open like a beacon. But each time her call dissolved into nothing, swallowed by some unseen distance. "Why have you gone?" she whispered inwardly. "Why now, when I need you the most?" No answer came, only the hum of the refrigerator, the murmur of distant traffic, the small sounds of a world that didn't seem to notice she was unraveling. At first she thought she had done something wrong. Maybe she had doubted too much, clung too tightly, leaned too heavily on the connection instead of her own soul. But as the days slipped by, the ache grew quieter, heavier, not sharp like heartbreak, but dense like fog. Her friends noticed her withdrawal. "You seem far away lately," one of them said at work, concern in her eyes. "I'm just tired," Sophia replied with a small smile. But it wasn't tiredness, it was absence, the absence of light, of fire, of meaning. Each night she laid in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for his warmth to return, but only the cool air greeted her, brushing her skin with the indifference of the void. And little by little she began to forget what his voice sounded like, how his energy felt when it touched her. The dream world, once her secret temple, was now sealed. The silence wasn't just around her anymore, it was in her. Sophia couldn't stand the silence anymore. It was one thing to miss his presence, another to feel that the universe itself had gone deaf. So she began to search for anything, anywhere, that might whisper he was still near. The first morning she found a feather on her doorstep. Her heart skipped. A sign, she told herself, picking it up gently, fingers trembling. It was small and gray, the kind that could have come from any bird, but she clutched it like proof. That night, she held the feather on her nightstand beside a candle, waiting for warmth to stir in her chest, but when she blew out the flame, the dark remained only dark. Days passed and she chased symbols like oxygen. She looked for the number sequences that used to follow her 1111, 333, 1234, but they never came. Songs that once played at just the right moment were replaced by silence on the radio, static on her playlist. Even scripture, the ones the one place she had always found comfort, felt hollow when she opened it now. The words blurred together, lifeless. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. She used to feel that truth burning through her veins. Now it sounded like an echo from someone else's faith. Everywhere she went, she looked, in reflections and clouds and candlelight. Her world had become a scavenger hunt for meaning, but every clue turned up empty. Once she even whispered into the mirror, "If you can hear me, just send something, anything." Her reflection only stared back, pale, distant, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. The mirror became her torment. It reminded her not of him, but of what she had lost. The glow that she used to carry was gone from her face. The light had dimmed, and she didn't know how to reignite it. By evening, she returned to the little shop, standing outside of Edith's door, wanting to go in but unable to face her. What could she say? That the signs had stopped, that the silence was louder than her prayers, that she was starting to believe that it had all been a dream, a beautiful illusion. She turned away and walked home instead. The city lights shimmered on wet pavement, reflections trembling like stars under water. Sophia watched them blur and fade as tears gathered in her eyes. "Please," she whispered into the night, voice crackling, "just show me that you're still here." But only the sound of her own heartbeat answered, slow, steady, and unbearably human. It came quietly, the moment Sophia finally broke. There was no thunder, no great tragedy, no violent storm, only a still, gray morning and a heart too tired to reach any more. She had woken before dawn, her pillow damp, chest aching from the weight of dreams that had turned to nothing, the familiar warmth that used to fill her eyes when she had closed them, gone. The sense of his presence was gone. The gentle pressure of unseen arms holding her, gone. She sat up, pulling the blanket tighter around herself, but no comfort came. It was as if her soul had been emptied overnight, leaving her body to wander through the motions of being alive. For a while she just sat there, staring at a candle she'd forgotten to blow out. Its flame flickered weakly, a single, trembling light in the room. She watched it, hypnotized, until tears blurred its edges and it split into two. One flame, then two, then one again. Her throat tightened. "Why did you leave me?" she whispered. The words hung in the air, fragile and unanswered. She pressed her face into her palm, sobbing until the sound became animal, raw and wordless. There was no longer any elegance in her grief. It was it wasn't divine longing now, only the ache of a woman who had lost everything that once made her feel alive. When the crying stopped, she sat there hollow. The silence wasn't cruel anymore, it was simply vast. It filled the room, the air, her lungs. She realized something then, something that frightened her more than the silence itself. She wasn't sure who she was without him. Every awakening, every vision, every pulse of light she'd felt since he appeared, all of it had been intertwined with him. And now, stripped of that connection, she felt naked before her own soul. Hours passed in that half light, the candle shrinking her breath shallow. Somewhere inside, a voice, small, quiet, it whispered, "Let go." She didn't know if it was her own or his, but she obeyed. Her hands loosened, her shoulders dropped. For the first time in weeks, she stopped fighting the emptiness. She let it take her, the grief, the silence, the strange peace hidden inside both. And in that surrender just before sleep came, she thought she had felt a faint warmth in her chest. Not his arms, not the dream, something older, deeper, her own light, flickering in the dark. The days blurred into another, soft and colorless. Sophia no longer marked time by sunrise or moonrise, only by how heavy her body felt when she woke and how long it took her to find her breath again. The silence had become her companion now. It followed her from room to room like a slow-moving shadow. At first, she fought it, filled it with noise, music, television, long walks through the city, but nothing could drown the stillness. It wasn't around her anymore. It was inside of her. She felt as though she was dissolving piece by piece. The person she had been before Christian, the woman who once laughed easily, who believed in control and logic, was gone. All that remained was the ache of not knowing. Each night she would crawl into bed and call out to him in her heart. Please, she whispered into the dark, just one sign, one dream, one touch. But there was only the sound of her own breath, rising and falling like the tide. Then came the dreams, not of Christian, but of falling, through endless corridors of light, through burning cities and collapsing towers. Everything she once built within herself, her own pride, her certainty, her control, came crumbling down. She reached for him, always just ahead, his silhouette faint and golden, but she could never quite reach him. And every time she woke, she found herself drenched in sweat, the echo of his name still on her lips. The shop where Edith worked became her only refuge. The scent of the old wood and sage wrapped around her like a memory. But even there, Sophia's voice had grown small. She spoke less, listened more. Her questions had turned inward. Edith watched her quietly one afternoon as Sophia traced the rim of a teacup, lost in thought. You're walking through the underworld, she said softly. Sophia looked up, startled. The silence, Edith continued. It's where the soul meets itself, not mistaking it for punishment, child. This is where illusions burn away. Tears welled in Sophia's eyes. But it hurts, she whispered. It's like he's died, like part of me has died with him. Edith nodded. That part must die. Only then can what's real remain. That night, Sophia didn't call for Christian. She sat in the dark, hands folded in her lap, feeling everything she had run from, the longing, the anger, the loss, the love. And somewhere in that stillness, deep within her breaking heart, she heard it, a pulse, a faint, steady rhythm, not his, but hers. The descent, she realized, wasn't leading her away from him. It was leading her back to herself.